Alright, so I have cut as you guys just saw, I cut the end caps to 24 by 23. Now, the legs are going on. So, I have here the 24 by 48, one of the sides. I just put it under this saw for counterweight. So, when putting this on here, I want the side to be on this. The end piece will be here, the side will be here. So, I'm gonna set this on the edge of the board like this. Okay? So, really simple, straightforward. Just get it to butt up against the end. That's it. So, now the thing with this whole combination is the 2-inch screws that I was talking about earlier. If you line them up here like so, perfectly, they are the perfect length. As long as you do not, using your impact drill, as long as you don't in. So, for the sake of the strength and integrity of this side, I'm going to screw from the bottom up. I'm also not going to pre-drill my holes. For reasons I do not know. But I am going to do 6 screws each leg on each side. So basically it'll be 2, 4, 6, but from underneath. Okay, so you guys just saw me put the sides together. I built the sides with the little corner leg things. Now we're going to do the end caps of the end piece. So basically all I did was I stood the 2 sides up on end, this guy and this guy. I took the 2 end pieces, the 23 by 24 inch pieces of plywood. I popped this guy, I just set him in here and used the clamps to help hold them together so that it doesn't fall on my head when I'm working or tip over. They're just kind of there. It's not super strong or secure, it's just to hold it in place. Alright, down here, I'm going to put this guy in first. So, it's 23 by 24. If you don't know which way you need to put it in, just look and see if the sides match up. When doing this, put in one side, or put it in the board. Don't worry about if it's perfectly matching on all corners. Just get that side tacked in, then you can kind of, not necessarily muscle it, but you can, parts will line up better when things are secure and stable. Alrighty, so as you can see, got the 2 boxes put together. They're a little deeper than I expected or thought. I think if I was going to do this again, I probably would have only made them 18 inches deep, and that's only because that's going to take an awful lot of dirt to fill those up, which is a lot of weight, and then it also costs money to put dirt in there. But otherwise, so what I'm going to do now is I got these original boxes of the plans, sort of, if you will. My grandpa built a couple of boxes, different sizes, different dimensions and stuff, but this is the basic idea, or the same basic idea. When he did it, he did a sheet of plywood in the bottom and a single 2x4 that ran across on the plywood, and then the 2x4 on top of it. The problem with that is after a while, or after some time, the plywood on the bottom broke out and busted out. He also, when he built it, on his original plan, he put his bottom piece up like this, which we designed, or I redesigned it so that it fits on the inside of the lip, you know, here, which I think I'm going to have to do a little extra trimming on the bottom pieces, but we'll get to that. The other thing I did when I rebuilt my parents is I took, their plywood hadn't blown out the bottom yet, but I basically took some 2x4, kind of like what we're doing. Yeah, I fixed it to the bottom and then used some metal straps to affix it to the bottom. But what I'm going to do on mine, or on these, is I'm going to cut those 2x4 pieces, remember the scraps, I'm going to cut them down to 23 inches. I'm going to put them as spanners in here. I'm going to do two 2x4s stacked on top of each other, so 2, 2, to span on the inside. Then I'm going to drop the bottom piece of plywood just on top of it. So I have gotten my chop saw set up for that, and here we go. Alright, so as you can see, we got those 2x4s cut down to 23 inches, all 8 of them. So they'll fit in here like so-ish. And I can't get away from it. It'll fit in there like so. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure that since I'm going to seed the brackets I'm going to use from outside, I want to try to make this as neat and pretty as possible. So what I'm going to do is I did some math. I wanted to have about a foot between the two supports in the center, because I'm going to have plenty of wood over here on the sides that I can anchor my sheet of plywood to. I'll just anchor it to the original plywood, or the end plywood, but in the center I have no supports. So I want to put that at about a foot apart or so. I don't know. This is put from this 2x4 to this 2x4's, I guess 41 inches. Comes to about 15 inches, or no, it's 14 inches on center, and then from here 14 inches on center. That's where we're going to put our 2x4. So I'm going to measure that out, and I'm going to put my 2x4s in, and yeah. Alright, so as you can see, I got the braces in case you didn't see it earlier. I did two from this side, screws from this side, 2 screws from that side. I spaced them apart. Then this is my 14-inch mark. So the crack goes right down there, so it's 14 on center. 4 screws on each end, into each. There's the other box, I did them both. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these steel straps just for extra support. Pick these up at Lowe's over in the lumber department area. They're like, I want to say they're a little under $1 a piece, maybe just a little bit over, something like that. So what we're going to do is, they actually bend pretty easily. So I'm going to take this bracket, line it up like so. Okay, I want these holes, I want these holes lined up with the edge of this piece of wood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw it in here, like 6 or so screws. Sorry again, 6. I'm going to do 6 or so screws, 6, 7, 8, I don't know. Then I'm going to take my mallet, I'm gonna hit this, so this is in, hit this so it'll fold over. I'm gonna screw these holes into this side so it'll become an L bracket instead of this strap. Alrighty, so as you can see, I've gotten the brackets on both of the planters. Okay, they're all on. Now, time to put the bottom in. We're just going to lower it in through the top. Now, the issue is, the way we built this, or I built this, whatever. As you can see, it's narrow enough, but just a skosh too long. So, what I need to do is I need to trim off from one of the ends just enough to get it to fit down in the box. Now, I measured it out. It needs to be 47 1/8 inches in length. So, all right. So I'm going to hit that with my chalk line to get that 47 1/8. Then I'm going to just grab my circular saw or skill saw, however you know it to be, and just shave it off the end. As you can see, the bottoms fit in there beautifully. So now what we need to do is from the top or from the inside, screw down into the support boards. Now I measured it already, but I'll show you. Sorry about that. From this board to the center of the support, 17 1/4 inches. So from that big thick crack to this sheet of plywood, this lip here, that's 17 1/4 inches. So so loud. So I'm gonna measure out 17 1/4 inches from the end. Sorry if my arm's in the way. 17 1/4 there. 17 1/4 there. So now, oh, of course. I'm just gonna make a line using this square. I know it's more of an L, but it's technically called a square. I'm just going to make a line here so I know about where the support is. Same thing from this other end. So 17 1/4 inches. Now, you may or may not notice that when I'm making a mark, I make a little, where is it? Little arrow. The reason is sometimes if you are trying to make a measurement and you say, let's just pretend this is where the ruler is, or the thing, you may go like that and it's not going to be perfectly straight. You may be like, well, what if the line accidentally goes like that? Okay, so where exactly does it go? So somebody taught me, one of my construction jobs was like, just make the little arrow, and then you just put your, that's your, where did it go? Shoot, oh. So little arrow here, little arrow here. And a trick that I use, is I put my pencil on the mark, and then just kind of pivot with it. The reason is, you don't know exactly how wide your pencil mark is going to be, and the shape of your pencil, or if it's really dull like mine is, it could give you some kind of iffy readings. So I marked that out. Now I'm going to throw some supports in there, or some screws. I am not going to film this because it'll just make the camera jump. Alright, so, oops, I forgot to do some screws. As you can see, I put those screws in. Apparently I forgot to do it on that line. I'll do that in a minute. The next task, though, is getting some screws into the end of this board to help hold and secure the bottom. So what we want to do is, the middle is fine, or the sides are fine. I'm not really worried about those. But the ends are an issue, because this end here is an issue. Same with this end down here. Because if there's a lot of weight and a lot of moisture, these ends are going to want to bow. It's not going to drain right. You don't want a completely watertight planter box, but you also don't want to just let it all flow out willy-nilly, because what we're going to do in a couple steps is we're going to put in a couple drain holes, then paint, and then put in a liner. But the main idea is we don't want it to pool at the ends. We'd rather, if anything, that it pool in the center, but it's more of going to drain out from the holes that are going to be in the center. So what I've done, or what we're going to do, is we know that the highest point, or where it needs to sit, is right here. So if you look, that's about 3.5 inches. It's 3.5 inches. So what I want to do is go along, check my corners, see, are we at 3.5 inches? Well, I swear it's 3.5 inches. The angle's just not showing up with this camera. Or the angle's all weird, but basically, okay, so as you can see, it's not quite 3.5 inches. So what you do, really high tech and technical, is kind of hit it a little bit and measure it again. That looks pretty dang close. Let's give it another. Oh, that might have been too far. Nah, that looks close enough in my book. So basically, you're going to do that with each of the 4 corners from the underneath side. Make sure that we're at 3.5 inches. I already did those earlier. So once you do that, what you're going to do is come along up here. I forgot my pencil. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. Pencil was hiding. Alright, so what you want to do is come out here. Now, this plywood is it's about a 1/2 inch thick. So if we measured up 3.5, I gotta set this tripod down. Okay, so if we measured the lip, the bottom of the piece of plywood, it's 3.5 inches, which would be here. Okay? The plywood is a 1/2 inch thick. So I made a mark here at 3.5 and at 4. Those are the two edges of the piece of plywood that's our bottom. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, it is a ½ inch. Okay. Let's make a mark at 3.5 inches. Make a mark at 4 inches. That should be our piece of plywood. So if I come through here like this, run my line there, run a line there, right in here should be my sheet of plywood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab some screws and a drill. Now for this part, I want to use 1.25 inch screws. Wait a minute, let me make sure this is showing up. You want to use 1.25 inch with screws. The reason is, see how far through that's going to go into the bottom plywood. You got to remember, this is what's going to be supporting this end, or these ends. So I'm going to end up doing 5 screws into that sheet of plywood. Now, because we measured it out and got it into place, every screw, as long as I hit right in the center, that should hit true right into that plywood.